Okay, I've got a question for you.
What is your definition?
What is your definition?
Your definition of the American dream.
I'm Vivian Tu.
I'm Sylvia Kwan.
I'm Robert Reich.
My name is Kahlil Greene.
I'm Kim Murstein.
And I'm Grandma Gail.
Okay, Grandma, what is your definition of the American dream?
Well, the American dream to me represents equal opportunity for education.
To me, I feel like the American dream is being able to pursue your passion and find your own opportunity to have success within that and actually live a meaningful life.
My version of the American dream will be realized when people are not suffering because of unequal access to healthcare. People are not suffering because of American imperialism abroad. When we are a country that fulfills the ideals that were set out at our founding, and people can have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What about you? What's your version of the American dream?
Well, it's very close to yours. I really do believe that at its best, this country is a place where almost anybody can make it through hard work and through diligence and through playing by the rules, of course.
For me, the American dream is really about agency and freedom. Achieving, living, and being more than you thought was possible. What do you think? What's your definition of the American dream?
You know, I'll definitely echo what you said. The American dream is just the ability to make your life whatever you want it to be, and that you aren't stuck somewhere, you have the ability to change. I'd also say that the American dream, especially for people in my generation, has changed a lot. I know a lot of my peers would rather live in a smaller apartment, pay more, but still have their backyard be a major city so that they feel like they can have access to experiences or dining or adventure. Maybe some of that is because they don't feel like they can necessarily get this old school dream, but I think a lot of it is also just a changing desire.
How has your personal definition of success, whether in your career or in your life, changed you?
When I came into college, I actually was only looking to come out as rich and successful by the definition of monetary success as possible. I was gunning for a consulting internship, and I ended up getting one at McKinsey and Company. Well, at the beginning of my internship, at least, I thought I literally could climb Mount Everest. And I realized that that earlier definition of success was not what fulfilled me. It was not how I wanted to leave a mark on the world. So I started to transition more into doing work that was more community-oriented, community-driven, that was focused on outcomes that improve society as opposed to improving a bottom line. And what about you?
Well, I'm quite different in terms of my experience. When I got out of college in 1968, I didn't think of success in terms of making money. By 1968, there were plenty of jobs. It didn't seem as if making money would be a difficult thing at all. I was much more concerned about issues such as civil rights and Vietnam, and I dedicated myself to those kinds of issues. In fact, I went into the United States government as soon as I could, not because I felt necessarily that the government was the best place to be, but I thought that that was a good place to continue my work toward social justice. Years later, I became Secretary of Labor in Bill Clinton's administration. And years later, after that, I was a professor. I began to change my views a little bit. By the time I was retired, quote unquote, I felt that the most important thing for me was to be generative, to pass on my values, to pass on my ideas, and to pass on to the next generation and the generation after that, whatever I had learned, to equip them to be powerful and better participants in our society.
How has your personal definition of success, whether it's in your career or life, however you want to define it, how has that changed since you started out?
I think, especially at the beginning of my Your Rich BFF journey, my definition of success was very quantifiable. How many of these lists can I be on? I love a list. My mom loves a list. And on top of that, like, what can I do to be so conventionally successful to maybe spite a hater or spite someone who didn't believe in me? But I think that all came from a place of deep insecurity. Now though, not to say that I'm like self-actualized, but I do feel like I am a more confident, wiser version of younger Viv. And because of that, I think my personal definition of success now is, do I get to wake up every single morning and feel like I'm actually doing something meaningful? Is it something I want to be doing? Is it something that benefits the world? Is it something that I'm good at? And is it something that, I can make money and build the life that I want to build?
I think part of my American dream, where I feel like I've achieved it, is really kind of becoming more than I thought was possible. I never dreamed to be a CEO. Like, that was never ever my dream. And so, here I am. And part of that is just really, hey, becoming somebody that your old scripts didn't think you could become.
What's one stereotype about your age group that you wish people would stop believing?
They're just on their phone all the time and they don't care, and that they're like selfish as well. I have not had that experience with people. I think you see this all the time, that young people want change. And I think, yes, we consume technology and social media and all these things, but I think the laziness and all of those things that are associated with that is not the case for most people. What's one stereotype about your age group that you wish people would stop believing?
I would hope they stop believing that older people can't be beneficial to society and give back to society, because that's a bunch of hogwash. And I think no matter where you are in your life, you can always help somebody and give somebody a hand.
Many Americans are waiting longer to hit traditional milestones like getting married, having kids, or buying a home. What advice do you have for people who feel like they're behind in life?
When I was young, within 3-4 months or even less, you got engaged, you got married, you had children. It was what was expected of you. Now there's no longer that expectation for most people. It's good in the sense that you have a chance to go into the workforce and do creative and wonderful things, or be a lawyer, a doctor, or whatever desire you have, spend years studying and still have a family. I think all the things that young people are doing are usually for the best, except they're a little afraid of commitment. They're scared of failure. And that happens in every generation. Nothing is absolutely certain. And I just tell all the people that I meet, don't worry about it. You fail, you pick yourself up again, and you do it again.
Do you feel hopeful about the future of the United States?
I do. Now, why in the world do I feel hopeful about the future of the United States when we are so polarized, when people are so angry, when so many people are struggling to make ends meet? I'm optimistic because of our resilience. I'm old enough to have seen this country bounce back from all sorts of things, depressions and wars. It seems to me that it's very important for us to avoid cynicism and to stay hopeful, because if we don't, then we stop trying. If we don't keep hope in our hearts, we stop really fighting the good fight to make the country better. And let me ask you, how about your optimism?
I don't feel very hopeful about the future of the United States. I think it comes from my life experience, which has us on a downward trajectory, I would say. And I haven't so much lived through a terrible moment that we've bounced back from. I've only lived through terrible moments that somehow get worse. It does feel like there's an insurmountable odds in terms of fixing things, and I just can't imagine how we do it, even though I'd like to try.
What is your message to Americans who feel disillusioned about the state of America today?
So I think there's a really appropriate quote from former President Bill Clinton here, something along the lines of, everything wrong about this country can be fixed by everything that's right about this country. Financial success in this country has gotten harder, but that's not to say that with our current systems, we can't improve that, we can't fix it, we can't make it easier for the next generation, and I hope we do.
What's your message to Americans who feel disillusioned by the state of the American dream today?
Perhaps be less hard on themselves and expect perfection, because there's nothing is perfection. Everything is a work in progress. And we've understood this for 250 years, that everything sort of goes in stages. Sometimes there are dark stages, sometimes there are light stages, but never give up.
Do you think the American dream is realistic for other people? Obviously, we sit from two positions of immense privilege right now, but like, can the average person get there now?
That's a tough one, Vivian. That's a really, really tough one, I think, especially for people in your generation. You know, the cost of housing is so high, the cost of education is so high, and we have people graduating with tons of student debt and just feel like I'm never, ever going to be able to buy a home or move out of my parents' home, house or what have you. And it just feels very unachievable, and I think those are real realities. The numbers are there.
I love that you say that out loud and like so unapologetically, because sometimes it makes people feel really crazy when they feel like they are trying to stretch their dollar further and further every week at the grocery store, but all the headlines are like, the economy is better than it's ever been.
What's your advice to people, especially younger generations, on building relationships with people who disagree with you?
I tell my students, and I'm quite sincere about this, that the best way of learning is to talk to people who disagree with you, because that tests your assumptions, it tests your facts, it tests your analysis, it makes you open, hopefully, to the possibility that you might be wrong. I hope, as a country, we get back to a stage where we really can learn from people who disagree with us.
I'd say it's a much harder thing for my generation. There's definitely a polarization that is really novel and unique in terms of you'll be in some ways socially ostracized for kikiing or having a tea or drinking a beer with someone on the opposite side. And what I would tell people is very much the same thing as you in terms of the fact that there's a utility to doing it. Like, you do become smarter, sharper, you increase your conviction or you change your mind when you talk to people who have different opinions.
Do you feel that you've achieved the American dream?
I do feel like I'm already living the American dream. I was living a more traditional path where I went to school, I went to college, I was working more traditional media job, but then being able to start Excuse My Grandma with you and really create opportunity where I could do something that I wanted to do and that I was passionate about. I feel like that's the American dream.
Correct. Well, I'm certainly living the American dream. I thought I was living it before because I had a wonderful family and children that I adored. And I think what happened is at the age of 79, I went to work. And so that gives hope to everybody who at any stage in their life wants to really start doing something different.
Kahlil, do you feel like you have achieved the American dream?
I would not say that I feel like I've achieved the American dream. I think in some ways I am living a life that's very privileged and I'm very grateful for. I went to school at Yale University, and after that, I graduated and became a full-time content creator on social media and started my own business. And it's a successful business. And I think that ticks off a lot of the boxes that we might associate with the American dream. But at the same time, I can't say that I feel like I've achieved this American dream that I've been promised, because I think outside of just the material wealth that you might acquire, there's also this promise that you'll have peace and security at a psychological level, at a social level. And a lot of my friends, and myself included, we just don't feel that. We don't have that.
I feel like I have created my American dream, and I love what I do at Elevest. I'm at the age where so many of my peers have already retired or are thinking about retiring, and they're like, Sylvia, why, you should just walk away. Like, why are you working so hard? I've chosen to stay here, but I could also choose to walk away or choose a different path or choose to travel the world or what have you. But it's really having that agency that I feel like is the objective of achieving the American dream.
If I can be really candid, I think I'm living my parents' American dream. So much of the life that I have is because My parents came to this country where they did not know the language, where they knew that they were going to face hardship, and they fought day in and day out so that I could have the future that I now feel so entitled to. And I think that is the greatest gift that they could have possibly given to me. And when I succeed, I want it to essentially feel like to them, my inheritance repaid.
I think that's it.
I think we've covered it.
So nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you, Vivian.
Kahlil, thank you for everything.
I mean, likewise, I appreciate you. Very much honored to speak with you.